The alarm bells rang across Luna Station like screaming metal birds. Commander Jake Morrison jumped from his chair and ran to the main control room. His coffee cup fell to the floor and broke into pieces. "What's happening?" Jake shouted over the noise. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her desk with wide eyes. Her hands shook as she looked at the computer screen. "Sir, we're getting a signal. It's impossible." Jake moved closer to Amy's desk. The screen showed numbers and letters that made no sense. "Explain it to me." Amy took a deep breath. "It's the UES Horizon, sir. The ship that went missing 15 years ago." Jake felt his heart stop. Everyone knew about the Horizon. It was the first ship humans sent to try faster-than-light travel. One day it was there, the next day it was gone. No trace, no signal, nothing. That can't be right. Check. Your equipment. Amy's fingers moved fast across the keyboard. She checked everything twice. "All systems are working fine, sir. The signal is real. The Horizon is coming back." Jake grabbed the radio from Amy's desk. "This is Luna Station calling UES Horizon. Please respond." Static filled the air for long seconds. Then a voice came through the speakers. A voice Jake remembered from old recordings. "Luna Station, this is Commander Ryan Stone of the UES Horizon. Good to hear from you. Requesting permission to dock." Jake almost dropped the radio. Ryan Stone sounded exactly the same as he did 15 years ago. Not older, not different. The same. "Ryan, is that really you?" "It's me, Jake. I know this must be strange. We have a lot to talk about." Jake looked around the control room. Everyone had stopped working. They all stared at the radio in his hands. "Where have you been for 15 years? "It's hard to explain." "Over the radio. We're coming home now. We'll be at Luna Station in 6 hours. Amy pointed at her screen. "Sir, look at this." Jake looked at the radar display. A small dot moved toward them from the edge of the solar system, but the speed numbers made no sense. "Amy, these readings can't be right." "I've checked them 5 times, sir. The Horizon is moving at impossible speeds." Jake watched the numbers. The ship should take weeks to reach them from that distance, but according to the radar, it would arrive in hours. "Get me Captain Lisa Brooks on the phone. Now." Amy made the call. Lisa Brooks had retired from space service 5 years ago. Her brother was on the Horizon when it disappeared. She never got over losing him. "Lisa, it's Jake Morrison. You need to get to Luna Station right now." "Jake, what's wrong? You sound scared." "The Horizon is coming back." Silence on the phone. Then Lisa's voice, very quiet. "That's not funny, Jake." "I'm not joking. Ryan Stone just called us. The ship will be here in 6 hours. More silence, then, "I'll be there in 2 hours. Jake hung up the phone. He called Dr. Kevin White next. Kevin was Earth's best scientist. If anyone could understand what was happening, it was him. "Kevin, drop everything and get to Luna Station." "What's the emergency?" "The UES Horizon just came back from wherever it's been for 15 years. Kevin laughed. "Very funny, Jake. I'm serious. The ship is 6 hours away." Kevin stopped laughing. "I'll be there in 3 hours. Jake spent the next few hours watching the radar screen. The Horizon moved closer and closer, but something was wrong with how it moved. Ships in space don't stop and start like cars. They follow smooth paths. The Horizon moved in ways that broke the rules of physics. "Amy, are you seeing this?" Amy nodded. Her face was pale. The ship just stopped, completely stopped. From full speed to nothing in 1 second. "That's impossible." "I know, sir." Jake watched as the Horizon started moving again. It turned in a sharp angle that should have torn the ship apart. No human technology could do what they were seeing. Captain Lisa Brooks arrived at Luna Station with red eyes. She had been crying. Jake met her at the docking bay. "Is it really them?" she asked. "The voice sounds like Ryan Stone." "But Lisa, something's different about their ship." "Different how?" Jake led her to the control room. "Look at the radar. Watch how it moves." Lisa watched the screen for several minutes. Her mouth fell open. "That's not possible." "I know." Dr. Kevin White arrived an hour later. He brought 3 other scientists with him. They all crowded around the radar screen. "This makes no sense," Kevin said. "No ship can move like that." "What if it's not the same ship?" one of the other scientists asked. Jake shook his head. "The signal matches the horizon's codes perfectly, and that's definitely Ryan Stone's voice." 2 hours later, they could see the horizon through the station's big windows. It looked like the same ship, but something was different. The metal hull seemed to shine with a strange light. It looked newer than when it left 15 years ago. "Look at that," Amy whispered. The horizon approached the docking port. It moved with perfect control, like a dancer instead of a machine. When it connected to Luna Station, there was no bump or shake. It was smooth as silk. Jake picked up the radio one more time. "Horizon, this is Luna Station. You are cleared to dock." "Thank you, Luna Station. We're coming aboard now." Jake, Lisa, Kevin, and Amy walked to the docking bay. They waited by the airlock door. Jake's hands were sweating. Lisa was crying again. Kevin kept checking his instruments. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss. Commander Ryan Stone stepped through the door. He looked exactly the same as he did 15 years ago. Not older, not tired. The same young man who had left Earth full of hope and dreams. Behind him came the rest of the crew. All of them looked unchanged by time. Ryan smiled at Jake. "Permission to come aboard, sir?" Jake could barely speak. "Permission granted, welcome home." But even as he said the words, Jake knew that something amazing and impossible had happened to these people. They had brought back more than just themselves. They had brought back something that would change everything. Ryan Stone looked around the docking bay like he had never left. His crew stood behind him. All of them looked young and healthy. Jake counted them quickly. All 23 people were there. Nobody was missing. "Ryan, you haven't aged a day," Lisa said. Her voice shook with emotion. Ryan smiled sadly. "Time worked differently where we went. For us, it's only been a few weeks since we left Earth." Dr. Kevin White stepped forward with his scanner in his hands. "May I check your ship's systems?" "Of course. But Kevin, you're going to see things that don't make sense." Jake led everyone to the meeting room. Ryan's crew sat at the long table. They all looked calm, but their eyes held secrets. "Tell us what happened," Jake said. Ryan took a deep breath. "We were testing the new faster-than-light drive. Everything was going well. Then something grabbed our ship." "Grabbed it?" Kevin asked. "That's the only way to describe it. One moment we were in normal space, the next moment we were somewhere else entirely." Amy leaned forward. "Where?" "A place between places. A pocket of space that exists outside normal reality." Lisa frowned. "That sounds impossible." "Everything about our story sounds impossible. But it's all true." Tony Garcia, the ship's engineer, spoke up. "There was a structure there, bigger than anything humans have ever built. It was older than our solar system." Dr. Helen Davis, the mission's science officer, opened her tablet. "The beings who built it called themselves the architects. They've been waiting for a very long time." Kevin's scanner beeped loudly. He looked at the screen and his face went white. "Your ship's power readings are off the charts. What kind of energy source are you using?" Tony smiled. "That's what we need to show you. Our ship isn't the same ship that left Earth 15 years ago." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "What do you mean?" "The architects changed it. They gave us technology that humans aren't supposed to have for thousands of years." "Why would they do that?" Lisa asked. Helen looked at her tablet again. "Because they were dying. Their entire race was ending. They needed someone to carry on their work." Ryan stood up from his chair. "They've been watching younger races across the galaxy, looking for species that might be worthy of their knowledge." "Worthy how?" Jake asked. "Species that don't give up. Species that protect others instead of conquering them." Tony nodded. "They tested many races over millions of years. Most failed the tests." "What kind of tests?" Kevin asked. Helen smiled. "Not the kind you might think. They didn't test our intelligence or our strength." "Then what?" "Our character, our hearts, whether we could be trusted with power beyond imagination." Jake felt his mouth go dry. And humans passed? Ryan laughed. We almost didn't. The tests were harder than anything we'd ever faced. Amy looked confused. If you were only gone for a few weeks, how did you have time for tests? Time doesn't work the same way in their space. We could have stayed there for years and only minutes would pass here. Dr. Kevin White was still staring at his scanner. Your ship's hull is showing materials that don't exist in our periodic table. Tony grinned. Want to see the really impossible stuff? Jake nodded even though he felt afraid. Tony led them all to the Horizon's docking port. When they stepped onto the ship, Jake gasped. The inside looked completely different. The walls glowed with soft light. Everything was smooth and beautiful. This isn't the ship that left Earth, Kevin whispered. Same frame, completely new everything. Else? Tony said. The architects rebuilt it from the inside out. They walked to the bridge. The control panels looked like they were made of liquid light. Screens showed star maps of galaxies far beyond human knowledge. Danny Ross, the ship's pilot, sat at the controls. Watch this, he said. He touched a panel. The entire ship hummed with energy. Through the windows they could see space bend and twist around them. We're not moving, Danny said. But if we wanted to, we could be at the edge of the galaxy in seconds. Kevin dropped his scanner. It clattered on the floor. That's impossible. Helen picked up the scanner and handed it back to him. That's what we kept saying too. They walked to the engine room next. The old nuclear reactor was gone. In its place was a sphere of pure energy that floated in the center of the room. What is that? Jake asked. Tony walked up to the sphere. 0 point. Energy. It draws power from the fabric of space itself. How much power? Enough to move planets if we wanted to. Lisa stared at the energy sphere. Why would aliens give humans this kind of technology? Ryan looked sad. Because their race is dying. They've been alone in the universe for millions of years. Alone? Helen nodded. They were the last of the older races. All their friends and allies died out long ago. So they decided to find younger races to take their place, Danny added. Kevin was writing notes as fast as he could. How many races have they contacted? Hundreds, maybe thousands, over millions of years. What happened to them? Ryan's face grew dark. Most destroyed themselves. They couldn't handle the power. Jake felt cold. What about the ones that didn't destroy themselves? They joined the network, a community of races that help guide younger species. And now humans are part of this network? Helen smiled. If we prove we can handle the responsibility. Tony touched another panel. Holographic displays filled the air around them. They showed star systems across the galaxy. These are all the races in the network, he said. Hundreds of different species, all working together. Amy pointed at one of the displays. What do? They watch. They guide. They protect younger races from making the same mistakes their ancestors made. Kevin looked overwhelmed. This changes everything about human civilization. Ryan nodded. That's why we came back. Earth needs to know what's out there. Lisa looked at her brother's picture on the wall. What happens now? Now we teach humanity to use their gifts wisely, Helen said. Jake looked around at all the impossible technology surrounding them. How do we even begin? Ryan smiled. The same way humans always begin, one step at a time. Tony activated another display. It showed Earth from space, but the image was different. Lines of energy connected cities across the planet. The architects left gifts hidden all over human space, he said. When we're ready, we'll find them. How will we know when we're ready? Jake asked. Danny laughed. The same way we knew we were ready for this. When we put others before ourselves. Helen closed her tablet. The architects didn't give us this technology because we were smart or strong. Then why? Because when they tested us, we chose to protect each other instead of saving ourselves. Ryan looked out the window at Earth. Now we have to prove we can do the same thing on a much bigger scale. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had just taken its first step into a much larger universe. Whether they succeeded or failed would determine the fate of countless other species across the galaxy. Jake sat back in his chair. His head was spinning from everything he had seen. "Ryan, I need to understand what really happened to you out there." Ryan nodded. "I know this is hard to believe. Let me tell you the whole story." The crew of the Horizon gathered around the table. Each of them had memories that seemed impossible. "We were 3 days into our faster-than-light test," Ryan began. "Everything was working perfectly. Then our instruments started showing readings that made no sense." Danny spoke up. "Space around our ship began to change. It looked like the stars were bending." "Bending how?" Kevin asked. "Like someone was folding space like a piece of paper." "Then something pulled us through a hole in reality." Helen opened her tablet and showed them pictures. "This is what we saw when we came out the other side." The images showed a massive structure floating in empty space. It looked like a crystal city the size of a moon. Lights moved inside it like living things. "How big was it?" Amy asked. Tony laughed. "Our entire ship could fit inside one small room of that thing." Ryan continued the story. "We tried to contact them. Our radio was silent for hours. Then a voice spoke to us in perfect English. They knew our language. They knew everything about us, about Earth, about human history. They had been watching us for thousands of years." Dr. Helen Davis touched her tablet again. "The voice called itself an architect. It said they had been waiting for us." "Waiting for humans specifically?" Lisa asked. "Waiting for any species that showed the right qualities." Jake leaned forward. "What qualities?" Karen Bell, the ship's doctor, spoke for the first time. "They didn't tell us at first. They just said we needed to prove ourselves." "How?" Ryan's face grew serious. "They brought us inside their structure. It was beautiful beyond description. Halls made of light, gardens that grew in zero gravity, technology that looked like magic." Danny nodded. "They showed us wonders we never dreamed possible. Cities that could exist underwater, ships that could travel between dimensions, weapons that could destroy entire star systems." Kevin's eyes went wide. "They showed you weapons?" "That was part of the test," Helen said. "They wanted to see what we would do when offered unlimited power." Tony stood up and walked to the window. "The first test came on our second day there. They showed us a planet." "What kind of planet?" "A world where two species were fighting a war. Both sides were dying. The architects could stop the war instantly with their technology." Karen continued the story. "They asked us what they should do. Should they stop the war by force? Should they let both species destroy themselves? Or should they try something else?" "What did you choose?" Jake asked. Ryan smiled. "We didn't choose for them. We asked if we could talk to both species ourselves." "And they let you?" "They did. We spent days talking to leaders from both sides, learning about their conflict, understanding why they were fighting." Helen showed more pictures on her tablet. The war started over resources. Both species needed the same minerals to survive. "What did you do?" Danny laughed. "We suggested they work together instead of fighting. Share the resources, help each other." Kevin shook his head. "Did it work?" "It took weeks of negotiation, but yes, it worked. Both species signed a peace treaty." Tony turned back from the window. "That's when the architects told us we had passed the first test." "There were more tests?" Amy asked. Karen nodded. "Many. More. Each one harder than the last." Ryan continued. "The second test was about personal sacrifice. They showed us a situation where we could save our ship and crew, but only if we let innocent people die." "What did you do?" "We chose to save the innocent people, even though it might have cost us our lives." Helen touched her tablet again. "The third test was about temptation. They offered each of us anything we wanted. Wealth, power, eternal life. Did anyone accept?" Tony shook his head. "We all refused. We said we only wanted to go home to Earth. Danny added. The fourth test was the hardest. They showed us a dying civilization, a species that had destroyed their own planet through war and pollution. Could you save them? Yes, but only by giving them technology they weren't ready for. Technology that might help them or might make things worse. Karen looked sad. We spent days debating what to do. Some of us wanted to help immediately. Others wanted to wait. What did you decide? Ryan smiled proudly. We decided to help them help themselves. We didn't give them advanced technology. Instead, we taught them how to work together. Helen showed pictures of the dying world. We helped them clean their oceans, rebuild their cities, make peace between their nations. Did it work? It took months, but yes. Their world began to heal. Tony sat back down. After each test, more architects came to talk to us. We learned their history. What was their history? Danny looked out at the stars. They were once like us, young and eager to explore, but they made mistakes that cost them dearly. Karen continued. They developed incredible technology but used it foolishly. Wars destroyed many of their worlds. Accidents killed billions of their people. How did they survive? Ryan's voice was quiet. Barely. They learned from their mistakes, but it was almost too late. Their entire civilization nearly ended. Helen nodded. That's why they created the tests. To make sure younger races don't make the same mistakes. How many races have taken these tests? Jake asked. Tony looked grim. Thousands. Over millions of years. How many passed? Very few. Most species fail because they choose power over wisdom. Danny added. Some choose to conquer others. Some choose to hide and protect only themselves. What made humans different? Ryan smiled. We chose to help others even when it cost us. Every single test, we put other species before ourselves. Karen looked at her medical scanner. The architects said that's what they had been looking for. A species that would use power to protect instead of control. Helen showed one final picture. On our last day there, they showed us this. The image showed Earth from space, but it was different. Lines of golden light connected every city. The oceans glowed with gentle energy. The atmosphere sparkled like diamonds. What is it? Earth's future if humans choose wisely. Ryan stood up. They gave us a choice. We could stay with them and live forever in their realm. Or we could return to Earth with their technology and help guide humanity. And you chose to come back. All of us. Without hesitation, Tony activated a holographic display. They told us that humans have something special, something even they had lost. What? Danny smiled. Hope. Pure, stubborn, impossible hope. Karen laughed. They said most species lose hope when they see how big and dangerous the universe is. But not humans. Helen shook her head. Humans see danger and think about how to protect others from it. Ryan looked at Jake seriously. That's why they chose us, not because we're the smartest or strongest species in the galaxy. Then why? Because when everything seems hopeless, humans don't give up. We find a way to help each other survive. Tony pointed to the holographic display. Now we have to prove we can do the same thing on a galactic scale. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. Humanity had been chosen for the most important job in the universe. Whether they succeeded or failed would determine the fate of countless worlds across the galaxy. 3 weeks after the Horizon returned, the world had changed forever. Jake stood in his office watching news reports from every country on Earth. Presidents and prime ministers were meeting in emergency sessions. Scientists were working day and night to understand the new technology. Dr. Kevin White knocked on Jake's door. We need to talk. Jake turned off the news screen. What did you find? Kevin looked exhausted. He had dark circles under his eyes from weeks of studying the Horizon's systems. The technology is beyond anything we imagined, but it's not just advanced, it's smart. Smart how? It learns about the people using it. It only works for those who use it to help others. Jake sat down heavily in his chair. Give me an example. Kevin pulled out his tablet. We tried to use their energy systems to build weapons. The technology simply refused to work. Refused? The power source went dead every time we tried to use it for something harmful. But when we used it to heal sick people or clean polluted water, it worked perfectly. Jake rubbed his temples. The architects built safeguards into their gifts. Exactly. They made sure humans can't use their technology to hurt others. Amy Carter rushed into the office. Sir, you need to see this. She turned on the wall screen. The news showed images from around the world. In Africa, doctors were using architect healing technology to cure diseases that had no cure before. In Asia, engineers were using new power systems to bring electricity to remote villages. In South America, scientists were using alien tools to restore damaged rainforests. It's happening everywhere, Amy said. People are using the technology to fix problems that seemed impossible to solve. Kevin nodded. The technology seems to encourage cooperation. When people work together, it becomes more powerful. Jake watched the screen as a team of international scientists worked together to clean oil spills from the ocean. The architect technology made the water crystal clear in minutes. Captain Lisa Brooks entered the office. The world leaders want to meet with Ryan and his crew. When? Tomorrow. They're calling it the most important meeting in human history. Jake looked back at the news screen. They're probably right. The next day, Jake stood in the United Nations building in New York. World leaders filled the Great Hall. Ryan Stone and his crew sat at a table in the center of the room. The Secretary General stood up to speak. Commander Stone, your return has given humanity incredible gifts. But with these gifts come great responsibilities, Ryan nodded. We understand, sir. Tell us what humanity must do to keep these gifts. Ryan looked around the room at faces from every nation on Earth. We must prove we can work together. The architects are watching us. President Martinez of Brazil leaned forward. Watching us how? Helen Davis answered. The technology reports back to them. They know how we use their gifts. Prime Minister Johnson of England frowned. Are we being judged? Tony Garcia stood up. Every day, every choice we make with their technology is a test. The Russian president spoke up. What happens if we fail these tests? Danny Ross looked sad. The technology stops working. The architects take back their gifts. Murmurs filled the hall. World leaders whispered to each other in worried voices. The Chinese premier asked, How do we make sure we pass? Karen Bell smiled. The same way our crew passed. We help others instead of helping only ourselves. Jake watched as the leaders talked among themselves. Some looked scared. Others looked excited. All of them understood that humanity had reached a turning point. Over the following weeks, Jake saw amazing changes happen across the world. Countries that had been enemies for decades began working together. Scientists shared discoveries freely instead of keeping secrets. Engineers used the new technology to solve problems that affected everyone. Dr. Kevin White called Jake with daily reports. The healing technology has eliminated cancer in 3 countries. The energy systems are providing clean power to 1 billion people. The water purification tools are ending droughts across Africa. Any problems? Some governments tried to use the technology for military purposes. It simply refused to work for them. Jake smiled. The architects knew what they were doing. Amy came into his office with more news reports. Sir, look at this. The screen showed space stations being built around Earth. But these weren't ordinary stations. They were made with architect technology and designed to help explore the galaxy safely. How fast are they building those? The technology seems to build itself once humans start the project with good intentions. Tony Garcia called Jake from the horizon. Commander, we're ready for the next phase. What next phase? The architects left markers throughout human space, hidden caches of more advanced technology. Jake felt his heart race. More advanced than what you already brought back? Much more advanced. But we can only access them when humanity proves ready for each level. How do we prove we're ready? Ryan Stone's voice came over the radio. By using what we have to help others. The more we help, the more we receive. Over the next month, Jake watched humanity transform. The first cache of hidden technology was discovered on Mars. It contained tools for terraforming dead planets into living worlds. Teams from every nation worked together to unlock it. The second cache appeared in the asteroid belt. It held technology for faster-than-light communication across the galaxy. Countries that had never cooperated before joined forces to study it. Helen Davis contacted Jake with exciting news. We're receiving signals from other species in the galactic network. What kind of signals? Welcome messages. Congratulations. Offers of friendship. Jake looked out his window at Earth. The planet looked different now. City lights were brighter but used clean energy. The oceans were clearer than they had been in centuries. The atmosphere sparkled with health. Kevin White visited Jake's office with his final report. The technology has stabilized. It's become part of human civilization now. What does that mean? It means we passed the initial tests. The architects trust us enough to let us keep their gifts. Amy burst into the office with a smile on her face. Sir, Commander Stone is requesting permission to launch a new mission. What kind of mission? They want to visit other young species in the galaxy, to help them the way the architects helped us. Jake looked at Amy and Kevin. And if we do that? Kevin grinned. Then we become the architects for the next generation of species. Jake picked up his radio. Ryan, this is Jake. Permission granted for your new mission. Thank you, sir. It's time for humanity to pay forward what we received. Jake watched through his window as the horizon prepared for departure. But this time it wasn't leaving alone. 3 more ships built with architect technology and crewed by volunteers from every nation prepared to join it. Humanity was no longer just a young species learning from elder races. They were becoming the elder race themselves, ready to guide others who showed the same hope and determination that had impressed the architects. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities and responsibilities that would test humanity for generations to come. But Jake had faith they would meet those challenges the same way they had met every challenge in their history. Together, with stubborn hope and an unbreakable determination to protect others, the age of humanity as guardians of the galaxy had begun. 6 months later, Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching 4 ships prepare for departure. The horizon led the small fleet, but it was no longer alone. 3 new vessels, built with architect technology and human determination, floated alongside it. Commander Ryan Stone's voice came over the radio. Luna Station, this is the Guardian fleet requesting final clearance for departure. Jake picked up the microphone. Guardian fleet, you are cleared for departure. Good luck out there. Thank you, Jake. We'll make contact as soon as we find them. The 4 ships began to move away from Earth. Jake watched until they disappeared into the darkness between stars. They were heading to a solar system 40 light-years away, where radio telescopes had detected signs of a young civilization. Amy, Carter walked up beside Jake. Do you think they're ready for this? Jake smiled. If anyone is ready, it's them. Dr. Kevin White joined them at the window. The technology scans confirm it. There's definitely an intelligent species in that system. What do we know about them? Kevin checked his tablet. They're using radio waves and atomic energy, about where humans were 50 years ago. Amy looked worried. What if they're not ready for contact? That's what Ryan and his team will determine, Jake said. The architects taught them how to watch and wait. On board the Horizon, Ryan Stone looked at his crew. Many were the same people who had made the original journey 15 years ago. But now they had a new purpose and new responsibilities. Helen Davis was studying data about the target species. They call themselves the Keth. They live on a world with purple oceans and silver cities. Tony Garcia monitored the ship's systems. All technology is functioning perfectly. The architect gifts are stable. Danny Ross plotted their course through space that bent around their ship like water. We'll arrive in their system in 6 hours. Karen, Bell prepared medical equipment designed to help any species they might encounter. I hope they're friendlier than some of the species in the network database. Ryan looked at the star growing larger ahead of them. Remember, we're not here to give them technology. We're here to see if they're ready to earn it. The Guardian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Keith solar system. Their sensors immediately detected radio signals and spacecraft moving between planets. They're more advanced than our initial scans suggested, Helen reported. They have colonies on 3 planets. Ryan nodded. Begin long-range observation. No contact until we understand their nature. For 2 weeks, the human ships watched the Keth civilization from a distance. They recorded everything. Radio broadcasts, ship movements, interactions between their colonies. Dr. Helen Davis compiled reports every day. The Keth are remarkable. They've never had a global war. Their different nations compete in sports and science instead of fighting. Tony Garcia added technical observations. Their technology is clean and efficient. They don't pollute their worlds. Danny Ross noted their space activities. They help each other constantly. When one colony had equipment failures, 3 others sent help immediately. Karen Bell studied their medical data from intercepted broadcasts. They've eliminated most diseases through cooperation and sharing medical knowledge. After 3 weeks of observation, Ryan called a meeting. What's your assessment? Helen smiled. They're everything the architects hoped to find, peaceful, cooperative, and focused on helping each other. Any signs of aggression or selfishness? Tony shook his head. None. They seem to naturally work together. Danny looked at the star charts. They're also curious about space. Their radio telescopes are constantly searching for other life. Karen added, their medical broadcasts show they're willing to share discoveries freely with anyone who needs them. Ryan made his decision. We make contact. The next day, Ryan had the communications officer send a simple radio message toward the Keth homeworld. Greetings from Earth, we come in peace and friendship. The response came 6 hours later, a voice speaking in the Keth language, which the architect technology translated instantly. Greetings, people of Earth. We have wondered if we were alone. We welcome you with joy. Ryan smiled. The first words were about welcome, not fear or suspicion. Over the following days, the humans and Keth exchanged basic information. The Keth were excited to learn about other species in the galaxy. They asked thoughtful questions about cooperation between different worlds. They want to know about the Galactic Network, Helen reported. They're asking how species work together, across vast distances. Ryan decided it was time for face-to-face contact. The horizon approached the Keth homeworld slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions. The Keth response surprised everyone. Instead of military ships, they sent a vessel painted with colorful artwork and playing music. They're treating our arrival like a celebration, Danny laughed. When the ships met in orbit, Keth representatives came aboard the horizon. They were tall, graceful beings with silver skin and large, kind eyes. They moved with natural elegance and spoke with voices like singing. The Keth leader, who called herself Vera Sin, looked around the horizon with wonder. Your ship uses energy we don't understand, but we sense it comes from peaceful hearts. Ryan felt amazed by her insight. How did you know that? Our people can sense the intentions of others. Your technology feels warm and protective. Helen showed Vera Sin images of other species in the Galactic Network. These are our friends across the galaxy. All of them learn to work together. Vera Sin's eyes grew bright. This is what our philosophers predicted. That cooperation would lead to greater things. Over several days, Ryan and his team learned more about Keth society. They had no concept of war. Their different communities competed only in art, science, and sports. They shared resources freely and helped anyone in need. Tony Garcia was particularly impressed. They built their entire civilization around the principle of helping others. The Keth were equally impressed by human history. When Ryan told them about humanity's journey from a warlike species to galactic guardians, Vera Sin was fascinated. You overcame your violent nature through choice and effort? It took time, Ryan admitted, and we had help from older, wiser species. As you now help us? Ryan nodded. If you want our help. The Keth Leadership Council met for 3 days. When they returned, Vera Sin had tears in her silver eyes. We accept your guidance. We wish to join the network of peaceful species. Ryan felt proud and humbled. Then we'll begin your introduction to galactic civilization. But as he spoke, Ryan realized something important. The Keth didn't need the same kind of tests that humans had faced. They were already living by the principles the architects valued most. Karen Bell made the same observation. They're naturally cooperative. They don't need to learn to put others first. Helen agreed. They're ready for architect technology immediately. Ryan contacted the hidden architect systems throughout human space. Within hours, a new cache of technology was unlocked, specifically designed for the Keth. 6 months later, Jake received a message from Ryan. The Keth have successfully integrated architect technology into their civilization. They're now helping us search for other young species. Amy looked amazed. They became galactic guardians in half a year? Kevin smiled. Some species are naturally ready. Others, like humans, need to grow into it. Jake watched new ships leaving Earth's orbital shipyards. Human and Keth crews worked together, heading out to find more species who might be ready to join the galactic community. The cycle continued, elder species guiding younger ones, knowledge and wisdom passed down through generations of civilizations, each species adding their own strengths to the growing network of peaceful worlds. Ryan's voice came over the radio one final time. Jake, we found something amazing out here. What's that? We're not just finding young species to help, we're finding evidence of the very first architects, the species that started this whole chain of guidance millions of years ago. Jake felt a chill of excitement. Are they still alive? We don't know yet. But if they are, we might finally get to meet the beings who first decided that older species should help younger ones instead of conquering them. As Jake looked out at the stars, he realized that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They were no longer just recipients of ancient wisdom. They had become part of an unbroken chain of civilizations choosing cooperation over conquest, guidance over domination. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but it was also full of species like humans and Keth who chose to help each other reach for something better. And that, Jake thought, made all the difference.